Alright, so for today's episode, I'm going to be talking about application fees in all of the western states. So for what I'm going to talk about for today, I'm gonna have a chart that I show, and I'm going to go through the prices in all the different states out west, and I'm going to go over what you have to pay before you can apply, and then the tag fees for each animal in each of those states. So I'm going to go through a walkthrough of the application fees, the hunting license fees, and then the tag fees for each state, and then the nuances of that. And then I'm going to wrap up with my application strategy, the fees that I pay, and why I choose to apply where I apply. So it's going to be a relatively brief episode today, but hopefully it's a good amount of information and relevant information for you guys, and hopefully you guys find it somewhat enjoyable or useful. So here is the episode. Also, I recorded all of these intros in the same day. That's why I'm wearing the same thing in most of them. So here is the application episode. Alright, so the first graphic I have here is just the overview of all the state tag fees. So the states I've got here, I have all the main western states. I didn't include the plain states in this graphic because I just wanted to hit up the main states that people go out west to hunt. So I hit up all the western states here. And then what I included is I included the fees for each of their licenses for the deer tags, their antelope tag fees, their elk tag fees, and then down here I have the application fee. So I'm going to go over what each of this means for each state and their kind of nuances for the state. So the first one here I've got Washington. This one's really interesting because it's different from all the others. This deer tag fee here is just the price of the deer tag. They don't have antelope hunting at all in Washington, so that's why that one's blank. And then we got their elk tag fee here too. This is the fee for their over-the-counter elk tag. Now Washington is interesting because you don't need to buy a hunting license in Washington. Your tag fee kind of covers the fee for the hunting license. So this is all you pay in Washington if you want to hunt deer or elk, is this and this. That's for the over-the-counter options. Where it gets interesting in Washington is if you want to apply for a limited entry hunt in Washington and start building bonus points. That's what the fee right here is. So the application fee to build a bonus point for deer or elk in Washington is $110. And I'm assuming actually, unfortunately, that's per species. I don't think it's $110 you pay and then you get to apply for all the species. I think you just pay the $110 and then you get to pick which one you're building points in. So Washington is pretty cheap as far as the actual price of the tag and the hunt goes. So if you just wanted to pick up a deer tag in Washington over the counter, that's running you your $434 and then you can go. But if you're doing limited entry stuff, that's when it gets a little more expensive. Now Oregon is different, and most of these other states kind of follow the model that I'm going to explain in Oregon here. So to hunt in Oregon, what you have to do first is you have to buy a hunting license. That's around $160 to $170. And then why the $10 is included, making it $180, is because you have a $10 application fee. So once you've paid for your hunting license and your application fee, then you get to, provided you do draw one of these tags, this is how much the tags cost. So Oregon's deer tag, $443, their antelope tag, $395, and their elk tag, $588. So you have to buy your hunting license first, then you do an application fee, and then you have to pay for your license fee. Nevada has the same sort of thing. So you pay their license is $150, your application fee is $10, and then once you win one of the tags in Nevada, you pay whatever this fee here is. Idaho is the same thing, except for it's not application, it's over the counter. So you pay your about $150. It's actually, if you include a limited entry application, that's what bumps it up to $170. And then when you win, you pay these. But since a lot of them are over the counter, really you're paying $150 for your hunting license and then buying the tag for whatever this fee here is. There's very few antelope tags that are over the counter. They're all listed as limited entry, even though some of their archery stuff is unlimited. Limited entry. Idaho has some weird tag nuances like that, where some of their deer units in the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness are unlimited, but it's still a limited entry application. So why they do that is they're trying to get you to apply for the limited entry stuff so that you can't turn around and buy another deer tag over the counter. So they're making it so that if you want to hunt some of these limited entry antelope stuff or limited entry deer. The deer one is especially why they do that. They make that area limited entry so that you have to put in an application for it and you can't buy a deer tag over the counter. So what you do have to do for Idaho, Oregon, and Nevada, all these ones, is you're pretty much paying this fee here. And then if you win, you're paying the additional fee for whatever species it is. Utah, the reason I have the asterisk here is because this fee here for their deer, antelope, and elk included the hunting license fee in here. So the hunting license in Utah costs $72. Then there's another $10 application fee. And then the tag price for deer would be somewhere around $580. But when they listed all their prices for these online, they included the hunting license cost here when they displayed the cost of the tag, which is kind of convenient if you're trying to estimate the overall cost. The reason I put 102 for Utah here is this is how much I pay every year in Utah, because I'm buying the hunting license. I bought mine as a 4-year hunting license, so I was actually locked in at the $62 a year rate instead of the $72 a year it is now, so that's why mine is $102 a year. If you apply for it now, you'd be paying $72 for your hunting license, and then $10 for each species application, and then this fee if you drew for one of those tags. Arizona's the same thing. You gotta buy the hunting license first, and then extra $10 for the application. It's always about $10 for most of these states. And then this is the tag fees for each of these. New Mexico does the same thing. It's about $65 for their hunting license, $10 for the application-ish, and then this fee for their tag. Colorado's the same thing, except for Colorado's super weird. It's a small game license that you have to buy. So you buy your non-resident $90 small game license, roughly $10 application fee. And then you buy, I think each point is about $10. Yeah, it's a $10 application fee for each one. The reason I have the asterisk here is if you just want to pick up an over-the-counter elk tag, you just pay the $670. You don't have to buy the small game license or the application fee if you want to do over-the-counter elk in Colorado. So if you're doing limited entry elk in Colorado, total it's going to be about, let's see here, $785. But if you're doing an over-the-counter elk, it's only going to be $670. So that's the reason Colorado has the asterisk. In that function, their over-the-counter tag is the same as the over-the-counter deer or the over-the-counter elk in Washington. You're not paying the application fee because there is no application for over-the-counter stuff. And they don't require a kind of regular hunting license like Idaho does. Idaho makes you buy a hunting license and then the tag. The tag functions as your hunting license in Colorado and Washington. Wyoming is the same way. The tag functions as the hunting license and the tag itself. The reason I have the application fee so high in here is this is how much it costs for points for elk, antelope, and deer. I think antelope is about $30, deer is about $40 for the point, and elk is about $50 for the point, and it comes out to $130. So each year in Wyoming, I pay $130 to get the preference points. And then the year that you draw, you end up paying this sum if you're going to maintain your points for the other species, and then you pay the tag fee. If you wanted to do something just like deer in Wyoming, the price would come down because you're not paying for the points for antelope and elk. It would only be $40 here instead of $130, and then the tag fee here. Montana is really interesting because it's a lot like the other states where you are buying a hunting license and then there's a habitat stamp in Montana you need to buy too. A lot of these states actually have habitat stamps too. They're all about $10. That's what brings us to 65 is their non-resident hunting license and the habitat stamp fee and then the species application fee. It looks like the species application fee is about $50, and then this is the tag fee once you draw for each of these species. So this is to buy your hunting license and apply. It's all those fees, and then this is the tag fee once you draw. Montana's really expensive when you look at it this way, but the cool thing Montana does have, and I'm going to write it down here, is they have a combo license. And that combo license goes on sale for, let me see, it's actually a lot cheaper if you buy the combo license in Montana, because it ends up being, I think it ends up being roughly $1,100 for a combo license. Yeah, that says $1,100, but $1,100 for the combo deer and elk license versus if they didn't have that option, it would cost you what it probably cost you $1,400, so it saves you $300 if you buy the deer elk combo license. And those are kind of a limited quota thing. They have a certain number set aside for those. I think it's about 15 or 20,000 for non-residents, but that's under their preference point draw, because usually there's, it varies based on the year. Some years Montana, they weren't selling out, so people were just picking them up basically over the counter, but in recent years it's taken about a preference point to draw that deer elk combo license for 1,100, or even the individual elk or individual deer licenses. Those have taken about a point as well. Their antelope license is pretty affordable though. Okay, so the other thing that I've included in here is when you're looking at the prices for New Mexico for all these tags and Utah for all these tags, other than antelope, their antelope is stable, but this is the fee that they list for their limited entry deer, and this is the fee for their premium deer in New Mexico. So New Mexico actually splits their units based on premium deer units and regular deer units. The regular deer units are actually closer to $250 tags, but I included the premium fee because this is the most expensive possible scenario, so if you're planning it out, this is the number you might want to focus on. Utah, this is their limited entry fee. Their over-the-counter fee is just about $400. I think it's $398. But limited entry in Utah is more expensive. Same with their elk. I think their over-the-counter general season elk, which is mainly limited to spike elk tags in Utah. There are some units that have bull, any branch antlered bull, but their spike elk tags in Utah I think are close to $500. And New Mexico, this is their premium elk unit fee, whereas they do have units that aren't premium that are closer to $500 tags. But this is the premium fees for New Mexico and the limited entry fees for Utah. I just wanted to explain that there because they have a double structure sort of fee-wise for Utah and New Mexico. Additionally, other species like bison, bighorn sheep, and moose, those have totally different type of tag fees. Usually you can add states like Nevada, Utah, Arizona, another $10. You can apply for that species, but those tags are much more expensive. You're looking at probably a $2,000 to $3,000 tag in most states. I think the cheapest one might actually be Nevada's desert bighorn, is the same as elk. I think it's about $1,200, where I think New Mexico's desert bighorn is close to a $3,000 tag. And I think Wyoming and Montana have close to $3,000 bison tags. I don't know about moose. I've never really looked into moose, but I'm assuming since it's a moose, it's probably a very expensive tag as well. So when you start to get into the other species, the tag fees go up a lot, potentially go up a lot for these states, and that's additional application stuff. Especially Colorado, because they have a completely different draw system for bighorn sheep and moose in Colorado. It's a weighted preference point system. It's really complicated. I don't know how to explain it very well because I don't apply for those. But note that if you're going to do something like moose or bighorn sheep in Colorado, it's a completely different draw system than the basic preference point system used for deer, antelope, and their limited entry elk stuff. So this is just the overview of all the tag fees for each state. And feel free to pause the video, write all this information down, or write the information down that you're going to use, and kind of get a ballpark for what the fees are for each of these states. Hopefully I went over that in good enough detail, and hopefully I didn't miss anything towards the nuances of which states are going to have to pay the application fees and which states is just going to be the tag fees. But this is kind of just a graph, so you can look at it and say, okay, in Utah I'm going to pay roughly this, and then if I'm applying for antelope I'm going to pay this, so add these two together to come up with my total estimate. But from there I'm going to go on into my own application strategy for each year, and I'm going to show you what that looks like and what that looks like cost planning wise. Alright, so this map that I've used before, if you've seen the other earlier videos that I released, I've been using this map a lot. I tried to recreate it, but then it ended up looking even worse than this map, so I've decided I'm just going to stick with this map. So right now, the states that I apply for points in are Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and Nevada. The reason I do this is because right now my strategy is focused mainly on mule deer. Mainly on early season kind of muzzleloader mule deer hunts in September. That's why I like Colorado especially. Colorado is kind of the king of the early season mule deer hunts. Nevada has some good September muzzleloader season dates. Utah has decent muzzleloader seasons. Those might be pushing into October though. And why I like Wyoming in general is I like some of their low country sagebrush desert, sagebrush steppe units. So I like to build points in Wyoming for that same kind of purpose. So if I was applying for, say, an elk strategy, that would change. I would honestly probably nix Nevada and Utah. I might keep Nevada just because I'm a resident there and it's a cheaper application. but I would probably nix Utah, and I would instead go with Montana and Arizona, because those are better elk hunting states necessarily. But since my seasons are focused more on that September season for mule deer, that's why I apply in these particular states, because those have the best things for what I'm looking for. Arizona and New Mexico don't have a lot of terrain that's above timberline because they don't get as much snow for as long during the year. So that's why I don't particularly want to build points for deer in those two. It's just not something I'm looking for. The reason I have this kind of note here by each of these is because I do plan on applying for a late season December archery hunt in New Mexico, and if I don't draw there, I have the opportunity to purchase an over-the-counter archery tag for December, January in Arizona. So that's something I'm going to look forward to in the next year or two. I have it by Nebraska as well, because right now Nebraska is my late season December mule deer hunt. That's going to be for muzzleloader. And then I do have points in Oregon, just because Oregon's very cheap for military members to apply in. They get to apply at the resident rate. So back when I was military, I was applying for points in Oregon, and I did some over-the-counter stuff there. And since you don't lose your points in Oregon, if you miss a year or two applying in a row, you just keep your points forever. I still have those Oregon points left over. I included Idaho too, because Idaho I look as more of an over-the-counter state. I'm more interested in their over-the-counter mule deer options. They don't have as much early season muzzleloader stuff. They actually save their muzzleloader seasons for a late season December type hunt. But I have the note there because I do plan on applying for some of those unlimited early season antelope tags. The way my application works right now is I like to look at August as kind of an early season option and apply someplace in August. I plan on doing some August mule deer archery hunting and burning all my general season mule deer points there. And then, like I said, I do have the option that I intend to keep going to Nebraska for their December late season mule deer hunts. And then some year I'll be able to stick on Arizona, New Mexico applications for a December, January mule deer hunt. So what it looks like for me right now fee-wise is looking at the tag fees. This is the example I'm going to go with, is if I plan on doing that early season Utah, their general season tag is going to be $398. So that's my Utah fee. And then in the same year, if I want to do Nebraska's muzzleloader, that tag is $267. Let's make sure I get that here. $267. And then I do have the option of doing a Nevada cow elk hunt. For me, since I'd be resident by that time, since I'm going to school here, that tag is $120. So that totals out to being $785. So this is my tag fees for the year. But you remember, I'm still applying for points, building up points in Wyoming. I intend to get about 10 to 12 points in Wyoming before I use them on a deer unit there. Colorado, I just can't fit their September seasons into my schedule right now, so I'm just maintaining my points there, building points. And then Utah, I'm going to maintain the points that I've been applying for there. In Utah, I actually apply for antelope points, Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep, and then I do apply for bison points in Utah too. Just because after you buy the license in Utah, which is $60 or $70 depending on when you locked in at your rate for, I bought a 4-year valid license back when it was $62 a year. Now if you buy it yearly, it's $72. But it's only $10 for each additional species, so I added some species to my Utah stuff, whereas Wyoming and Colorado, I just do the big three: elk, antelope, and mule deer. Nevada, I do just about everything they have. I have black bear points, I have bighorn, desert bighorn ewe points that I'm building in Nevada. I have California bighorn, that's this side of the state, Nevada, they get California bighorns points I'm applying for, and then I have regular desert bighorn ram points I'm applying for, in addition to cow elk and bull elk points. I apply for just about everything that a non-resident, because I started as a non-resident in Nevada, could apply for. I might add, since I'll be a resident, their Rocky Mountain bighorn points there, because I can. So this is the total tag fee. I apologize for the handwriting, but it comes out to $785 just for tag fees, and for points, let's add this up here. So Nevada, since I'll be a resident, it comes out to 105. Wyoming, I went over this total earlier in the previous graphic. Wyoming comes out to 130 for elk, deer, and antelope. If you add bighorn sheep in Wyoming, it gets really expensive because those are $100 points. In Utah, since I already paid for my hunting license, I paid something like $350 for 4 years worth of hunting licenses in Utah. So now when I'm buying points, I only pay the $60. And remember, this year, in this example, it's $60, and I would be applying for the general season mule deer archery tag and spending another just about $400 in Utah. And then the other state I apply for is Colorado, and that'll cost me $115. So total, what we're coming up with here, for my points, maintaining and building my points, and then my tag fees for hunting each year, ends up being $1,195. So basically a month's worth of rent where I live. But that's including my over-the-counter tags in Nebraska, the points I'm building in all of these states, the deer tag that I plan on maybe purchasing in Utah, and then the cow elk tag that I plan on purchasing in Nevada. So this is roughly what my hunting fees come out to in a year. It's at about $1,000 to $1,200 depending on how many tags I plan on buying. I could save a little money by maybe just doing 1 or 2 hunts in a year, maybe drive that tag fee down to $500, $400 or $500, and then just add the point fees to that, whatever that comes out to be. But on an average year, I would say it's about $1,000 to $1,200. So this is my specific application, what it looks like, what states I apply for points in, and then what I end up purchasing. So if you guys have any questions, leave those down in the comments, but I just wanted to give an overview of what it costs to apply for points and purchase points in these western states and what some of your options are for purchasing those points. Thanks for being here.